Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bitcoin 15. It's January 17th, 2021. This is our episode 3. Um, Anyhow, if you've been with us the first 2 weeks, uh, thanks
Thank
for
you.
being with us yet again. And we want to especially give a shout out to our friend Diego down in Mexico. We got our first comment from someone last week on our YouTube channel and our second episode, and we just really appreciate anyone out there who's not friends or family. I mean, we appreciate friends and family too, but like letting us know that it's not just our friends and family listening, and that really encourages us to try to keep building something here. And so we appreciate that. And kind of forgot to say, I'm Peter Christensen. I'm joined as always by my co-host Peter Beckstrand. So Peter, I'm gonna send it over to you for the price action this last week.
Yeah, we opened up at 37 700, and we didn't hit our all-time high like we did the previous week, but we still got around $40,000. We're closing at 35 700, so we're about a $2,000 decrease. But I think the big talker of the week was the 7-day low at 3,100, and I know that you kind of speculated on. We saw a bunch of
31,000.
articles. 31,000, yeah. That that Bitcoin was dead, and then the bull run was over, and that was the correction that you kind of forecasted. But it came kind of storming back, up $7,000. So we're getting used to these new 2000 or 2021 huge price swings of a couple $1,000s, and actually not freaking out completely.
So I'll lead us off with a few headlines of several different headlines we saw this week came out about different levels of government around the world embracing crypto and Bitcoin, which is good news, we think. So first off, there's a story about in Pakistan, there's a state-owned and operated mining operations are being opened up in one of the provinces there. So that's pretty cool. Saw in the headline that both Pakistan and the nation of Iran have used Bitcoin as a way to try to stimulate their economies, since those types of developing nations don't quite have the powerful economies of the bigger countries like the United States where we live. So that's one good thing. The state of Kentucky here in the U.S. Apparently, lawmakers are proposing a bill that would exempt Bitcoin miners from taxes on their electric bills and purchase of other equipment. So making it more mining friendly. Kentucky is apparently trying to be that state in the U.S. that's going to kind of be the leading state in being friendly to Bitcoin miners, and see how that pays off. Or we'll see if that law gets passed. And then also the mayor of Miami down there in Florida is they're going to allow citizens to pay taxes in Bitcoin, pay other government fees in Bitcoin, and they're just trying to attract tech companies, make the city as techno or as crypto friendly as possible to attract tech companies and whatnot. And even they may even invest some of their government funds in Bitcoin itself, which would be kind of wild. But anyhow, we're always worried. People are always worried about our government's trying to shut down Bitcoin. Should I not invest because of that fear? Well, here's some encouraging news that there are, in fact, governments out there that are embracing Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, and there's another one too that we kind of left out, but I kind of think it bodes well, is the Siberian city of less than 200,000 people. I think like -40 as an average temperature in the winter. Getting some new mining companies getting up there with the big cooling costs, and then the low electricity, and they're away from the main grid of Russia. If there's any kind of like government intervention too, so kind of another spin-off. We're seeing, like you said, more countries investing that infrastructure to attract. It's kind of cool that Kentucky's trying to be the new Scandinavia, and to get people to come there. Who would have guessed that?
Maybe we're going to be living in Kentucky a few years from now, Beckstrand, since
Maybe
our
low tech.
Scandinavian roots, and we're now crypto guys. So
Yeah, let's go bluegrass. So that was cool. And the thing that I also thought was cool about the mayor comment from Miami is that he said, if I would have done this last year, I'd be up 200% of if I just like would have done this a year ago. And like I was like, this guy must have been into Bitcoin, because that's what we all say unless you were there at the beginning. He's like, man, if I were just doing this, or if I would have bought this X amount of years ago. So yeah, that's kind of the good, I guess. Kind of segueing over to the bad. would be the former IMF and current ECB, Christine, how'd you say her last name? I
Lagarde,
can't.
I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't. She's probably French.
Yeah, that sounds about right. She had some interesting choice words to say about Bitcoin or cryptos in general,
Well,
but
just
mostly
real
about
quick,
Bitcoin.
not to interrupt, but
Oh yeah,
you said ECB. Just for those out there who might not know what that means, she's head of the European Central Bank, which is kind of like the Euros, like the European Union's version of the Fed. She'd be like the chairman of the Fed in the U.S., but over there in Europe. So sorry, go ahead.
no, TY or thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just gonna start abbreviating it, abbreviating everything. Um, she had it. She was talking about the funny business, and that Bitcoin is kind of like is into some funny activity, funny business in general. And I think some of my initial notes or initial thoughts of that was, tea kettle black, calling the tea calling the kettle black here. She was actually previously found guilty.
The pot calling the
Yeah,
kettle
you know
black.
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's why I like having you around, because you always correct me on whenever I screw up common phrases. But she was
That's why we're a team right here.
she was previously found guilty by French courts for over a $403 million or million euro arbitration deal in favor of a businessman. And then she goes to accuse Bitcoin of being heavily embroiled in criminal activity. So just the pure irony there. The people who want to control it, they can't control it, but they're saying we need to control this. So that's kind of some of the ugly of the government intervention. And then one of the other ones that we saw was the Finnish government that seized, I think in 2016, almost 2,000 Bitcoin units.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting on them, and they are thinking about selling them off now that they're worth a couple million. And this was all during a drug bust of like LSD, methamphetamines, other, I think it said other powdered drugs. The kicker is that we don't really know how they got a hold of the Bitcoin. And that was a conversation that we've had of good on them to recognize the value and maybe cash out, but how did they get their hands on it? This is kind of one of the appeals of Bitcoin is you can't freeze my assets because unless you have my keys. So how did they get
right
his Bitcoin keys?
Yeah, we were
I shouldn't say he or
she. They. We in our pre-show prep. Yeah, we were talking about this, and we were just kind of speculating how that's the bad news. It's like we said, good on the Finnish government if they want to get in Bitcoin. Maybe this will encourage them, and they'll be a pro crypto country because of this. But the scary part for us individuals is how did a centralized government, or how did I guess the Finnish customs seize Bitcoin from these drug dealers if the drug dealers were smart and just kept their keys. Maybe they were coerced in some way. We don't know. Maybe they were cut a deal in the legal system. That stuff wasn't in the story, unfortunately. We didn't do the hard digging. We're just guys reading stories and trying to
just two
aggregate them for
guys
you.
reading headlines, people. I mean, don't take it. But what I do know about Scandinavian or Nordic, crime systems or criminal, I don't even know the right word to say here, but like a life sentence, court system. But I don't think it's the same as kind of our U.S. ones, where we always talk about people getting bailed out or taking a plea deal for a lesser deal. They might do that. I'm not completely well versed, but for my knowledge of the area, like life sentence, I think in all those countries is below 20 years, and here in the U.S. you'll get a triple life sentence where it's 300 years. It's like physically impossible to live. So it would be interesting if there was maybe of like how the government got a hold of it. And I mean, with that much stuff at hand that they did seize, maybe it was just part of their search warrant, something that they did seize legally and they got a hold of, and maybe that person just cracked because at the time maybe it was next to nothing of value to them, and maybe you're right, maybe it was part of the deal. It wasn't in the article. Yeah. We didn't dig much deeper into it.
Well, anyhow, so yeah, that was my takeaway from that story. And then, like we talked about with the European Central Bank president story, not only I didn't know that part, I missed that tidbit that she had a had a kind of a shady record herself, but I just thought it was her critique that Bitcoin is quote reprehensible because it's been used for quote funny business, when she's referring to such things like in Finland that it's been used for drug deals and the dark web and stuff, that's why Bitcoin shouldn't be used. It's only a speculative asset, it shouldn't ever be used as currency. It's like, well, like we talked in our pre-show prep, so when drug dealers are selling crack on the street corner and they accept dollar bills for it, then I mean, isn't that being used as funny business? It doesn't negate the it doesn't make it, that doesn't well, I'm blanking on the words I want to use here, but it
makes
doesn't
the money dirty. It makes the act that which they receive the money dirty.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that the money, the US dollar, ceases to be money because it's used for illicit activities. Bitcoin's acting the same way in that case. So anyhow, we'll move on here. Kind of our top story for the week. Maybe it's not the top story, but this is the headline that grabbed our attention, and the headline was "The Bitcoin Dream is Dead." It's an article. We'll link to it. I saw it trending on Twitter, that's why I grabbed it. But basically, it's total clickbaity headline in my opinion, because like, why would you declare the dream dead with Bitcoin when it's been going up like crazy lately? Like, what are you talking about, man? And I guess the author's main point is that it's not being used as a currency. So, and since Bitcoin has been labeled a cryptocurrency, this is why the dream is dead, and it's become just this super volatile speculative asset, and therefore it's not achieving what it set out to do. And the point I think he's missing is that Bitcoin is currently in this phase of like trying to gain widespread adoption before it becomes a currency. And it's part of the volatility is also due to the fact that it's being measured by fiat currencies. A Bitcoin is worth $35,000 US dollars, or probably around 30,000 euros or 30,000 pounds, whatever. I don't know the exchange rates well enough to know what Bitcoin costs in those units right now, but that's part of the volatility too, because then you're measuring it against these fiats they're the ones that we can't know what's going to be worth today or tomorrow or 10 years from now because of government manipulation. And so we're all, those of us that are holding or hodling, we're making a bet that one day Bitcoin will be the world's reserve currency, not the dollar, not the pound, not the euro, not whatever you want to say. And so the price going up to me is a sign that we're working towards that widespread adoption. And hey, like we've said a few times before on this show, it could go to zero one day, but we're making the bet. We're hedging our bets. We're not going to just be all in the dollar or US based stocks or whatever. We're making a hedge against that. And I would say that people who think it's getting too expensive and it's too volatile to be used as a currency, get in your mindset that a Bitcoin is not going to be the everyday unit. Think of like a Satoshi. It's 1/10 millionth of a Bitcoin. So if one day we're probably going to be paying for stuff in Satoshis, not really Bitcoins. And wrapping your head around that mindset that Bitcoin can be divided many, many times. Obviously, you can't pay one Bitcoin for a Big Mac. That'd be preposterous when it's over $30,000 right now. Anyhow, I spit a lot at you right there, but I'm wondering if you read the story and what thoughts you had on it.
Yeah, you gave me like the last 50 seconds here, so I'll try to wrap it up. But you said everything. You went over everything that I wanted to go over. The only thing that kind of wowed me is that on average, from the article, there's now around 325,000 Bitcoin transactions a day. There's roughly 6 billion credit cards transactions per day. So I'm just like, one question that I'm having is like, what is everybody buying for 6 million transactions? But I think that's, like you said,
you said 6 billion with a B for credit card transactions a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's I think the argument there is that it's not, and 1.3 merchant transaction where people bought things with Bitcoin over the last year too. And so maybe as a crypto asset, but maybe becomes the new gold standard where other, somehow in the future, other cryptocurrencies, I say it's backed by Bitcoin. I don't know, you know, if they want to, which seems kind of like what they're doing right now, right? Of like other cryptocurrencies. I know this is the Bitcoin 15, but they're kind of saying, hey, you trade in your Bitcoin, you'll get this other cryptocurrency. And so maybe in the future, if it isn't as widespread, it isn't as adopted as a cryptocurrency, maybe does come the new gold and things are backed by, hey, this is the new gold standard.
That's really well said. That's really what I've been thinking of too, that I don't think stuff like the dollar, the euro, the pound will ever go away completely. But those currencies used to all be pegged to the gold standard, right? Well, maybe not the euro because the euro is newer, but the dollar, the pound. And a little super quick history lesson. I don't even know the details well enough, but basically, you know, decades ago, everyone decided the US dollar would be the world's reserve currency and all the other currencies are kind of pegged to it. Well, what we're kind of thinking is that one day, like you said, and that was because that replaced the gold standard because they used to all be pegged to gold. Well, we're going to return to, instead of a gold standard, a Bitcoin standard. We'll peg all these other currencies to Bitcoin. And so that if those governments aren't holding up Bitcoin, they can't just print money yet. Who knows if they'll ever want to go to something like that? But if they don't, people will just instead just switch over and be like, fine, we're just going to use Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will find a stabilization. It has widespread adoption worldwide. And like you said, we'll just be spending Satoshis in
Well, you said
every
that.
day. And we'll, okay, sorry, I said that. We said that. I'm putting words in your mouth. Anyhow, we're kind of getting long here, so I guess we should wrap, but hopefully that made sense to everybody.
Oh, for sure.
Points were well made, and we'll provide links in the description for all these stories so you can explore them yourself if you want to learn more. Anyhow, thanks for being with us yet again, and we'll see everybody in a week. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
All right. See ya.
See ya.